Clyde Lewis, and we're really, really excited for today's show. Another, reason why I'm excited is because the guest I have on the program tonight has done his best to contribute to making Portland weird, and he does it when he appears at Reed College every year. Reed College, he does a lot of music lectures, and he takes us back, tripping through time, through songs that most people don't get a chance to hear on the radio or anywhere else. And he speaks for himself. Let's just hit it. Here we go. Oh yes, Dr. Demento is with us, and I am so excited to have him here. I mean, we've had him on my show, Ground Zero, over and over again because he always enlightens us with great music. He enlightens us with all kinds of strange and demented tunes. His latest album is called First Century Dementia, which is a compilation of a lot of old songs you'll never be able to find anywhere else. Well, Dr. Demento, welcome to Channel Weird, first of all. Thank you so much for being with us.
Whoa! Wind up your TV or your computer or whatever you're listening on.
Dr. Demento, thank you. Thank you so much.
Good to see you again. Good to
How
see
long
you
has it been? We
morning.
haven't seen each other for 2 years. It's been
Right.
2 years. It's too long.
Thanks to that nasty COVID.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, every year you come to Reed College and you do music seminars, and it goes to show you, when you do your music seminars, I'm always immediately astounded at the collection of music you have. How big is your music collection right now?
Oh, it's the quality that counts, not the quantity, but it's well into six figures, 100,000 or 200,000 records, tapes, wire recordings, anything that can hold music.
How far back does the collection go? Because I know that the compilation of this latest album, The First Century Dementia, goes all the way back to the 1800s. Do you have anything that goes beyond that?
That's one of the oldest records I have. The Ravings of John McCullough. Yeah.
How old is The Ravings of John McCullough?
That was recorded, as far as we can tell, in 1895.
1895. I
pressed on a little 7-inch record, playing at approximately 60 RPM.
At 60 RPM?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the kind of record that generally they finally standardized at 78. Only in the 1920s did they get completely standardized. But it's the kind of record that we call a 78.
That's amazing because, I remember back when I was a kid, my parents used to always, for some reason, they would collect 78 records. And I remember I had an aunt who worked at a radio station. It was KSL Radio, 50,000 watt clear channel station. It was in Salt Lake City, Utah. And they had these huge, I don't know how big, I mean, they're bigger than a pizza, these huge record albums, and they'd play them lower than 16 RPM, from what I understand. And they'd play them in reverse. Do you remember that from somewhere deep into your mind? They use those types of records?
I don't know any slower than 16 back that far.
Yeah. Well, I just remember that.
This would have been in the 20s or the 30s, I suppose.
Yes, it was the 20s or the 30s.
Probably they used 16-inch transcriptions. That was the standard size for radio programs back then.
Right, before they had tape, before we had the arrival of tape.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize just how amazing or how music has affected us and the different types of music. And I know that when I've attended some of your seminars, music that's influenced attitudes, both good and bad. I remember that one you did a while back talking about race and how there was there was a lot of racial, I guess you could say, songs that today, if they were to be heard, they would be, I mean, you look back some 20 years and we wince at some of the things we did back then, but going all the way back to the time where it was obvious that we were dealing with inequality, it was obvious we were dealing with, I guess you could call it the mix here of both remarkable black artists and some of the other artists that would sing songs that, you're thinking, how did they get away with singing songs that were so racially, I guess, insensitive?
Well, because America was more racially insensitive in those days.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there was a song that I heard one time by Rudy Valley that I listened to, and I couldn't believe that a Rudy Valley song like that would be so popular with people. And you know, and you have a lot of the history of music and how it's evolved over time. And you know, that's why this album is so important and so vital, I think, is because it does go back and span from the 1800s to the 1920s. And what goes into selecting these songs? And I'm sure you have plenty of liner notes on this album.
Yes. Yeah. It's here's the CD version, and of course the vinyl version is the same notes, only bigger.
Right.
And a few more pictures.
Right. Exactly. And you know, you span a lot. I mean, let's give I would like to, you know, hear, or at least hear from you, why certain songs were selected, and tell us a little bit about some of the songs we'd be hearing from.
Well, we looked for funny songs whose humor was at least moderately understandable and enjoyable by modern people who did not grow up in the 1930s or even the 20s or even the 1950s or 60s. You know, we wanted things that would appeal to people of all ages, rather than things that depended on intimate knowledge of those times. And of course, we also had to leave out a bunch of the racial humor,
right?
Which is just no longer even passable. You shouldn't even talk about it these days.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's left for the seminars to look at the evolving nature of music and how it influenced people throughout time. And you know, when we're producing music on record albums in the 1800s. I mean, did they eventually, any of them, get airplay? I mean, did they eventually wind up on the radio?
Well, radio didn't really become prominent in American homes until the early 1920s. But before then, radio was used in ship to shore and military communications. But it wasn't till the 20s that you had radio as entertainment with commercials and so on.
Right. And most of that was limited to a lot of the radio plays you hear and some of the old classic radio shows you hear. I know I grew up on a lot of those.
Those became huge in the late 1920s, and especially in the 30s. You started getting comedy programs and mysteries and war stories and westerns and all kinds of things that were antecedents of the TV shows you have today. There were sitcoms as early as the 1930s.
Did a lot of these, I think, first, a lot of these older songs, were they featured in films? Because I know when the talkies, when the talkies first came out, they were simultaneously playing vinyl, or back then I'm sure it wasn't really vinyl, it was the harder discs, and they were playing those and matching, and trying to sync it up with the voices in the film, and that's how we got the talkies. Before
they developed a sound on film, there was a couple of years when they had to use records of various kinds, which was an imperfect method of syncing it up with a film, because if the record skipped, you're suddenly out to lunch.
Yeah, I can't remember what movie I saw where that happened, where they were showing Jolson's Jazz Singer, and somebody wanted to compete with that, and they were doing the movie, and you're right, the record came out of sync. And immediately the movie just was, it looked like, once again, it looked like a Japanese, Godzilla film. They weren't able to match up the sync. And so that was the problem that they had. And, and the development, I think, is just so interesting that, just sitting with you and I think talking with you about the development of such things for those who are radiophiles, or even those who are vinyl files, or those who love to go back and listen to the old cuts, go back and experience them. I mean, where do you begin? I mean, it's like you have to know that history, don't you?
Well, a little bit helps, but just begin with something that you discover and you like. You hear it on my show or hear it somewhere else, and you like something and you want to hear more of it, whether it's new or old. You depends. You can, of course, now you have the internet and YouTube.
Right.
Which is fairly recent. We didn't have that YouTube really till well into the 21st century. So
I think if we have time, maybe we should run the cut Nobody. This is by Burt Williams. Can you give us a background on this song?
Yeah, Burt Williams was the first superstar who was black, and he was considered the I think it was W.C. Fields who worked with him in a couple of shows and said Burt Williams was the funniest man I ever heard and the saddest man I ever knew. He was a tragic figure in many ways. He died in his 40s. He was pretty young, but he did these great songs, many of which he wrote himself, including this one,
Right.
Nobody, which is pretty self-explanatory. I don't really have to explain much.
Okay. So let's play the song Nobody. This is by Burt Williams with Dr. Demento right here on Channel Weird. Here we go.
In no time till I get something from somebody sometime. But I'll never do nothing for nobody no time. When summer comes all cool and clear, and my friends see me drawing near, who says, come in, have some beer? Nobody. When I was in that railroad wreck and thought I'd cashed in my last check, who took the engine off my neck? Not a soul. I ain't never done nothing to nobody. I ain't never got nothing from nobody no time. Till I get something from somebody sometime. I never do nothing for nobody no time.
That's amazing. That's Burt Williams, and the song is called Nobody off the First Century Dementia, the new album from Dr. Demento. Yeah, I find it interesting how he was able to match the classic parts, matching the sound of the trombone and matching the sound of the horns.
Yeah.
And it's just remarkable how he was able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And was that scat? He did a little bit of scat too, I think. A little bit of
They hadn't called it yet, and jazz hadn't really become part of the scene yet. But so it wasn't quite like Louis Armstrong's scat. But
That's amazing. That's amazing
it
stuff.
was. Burt Williams had to wear blackface to be accepted on stage. He was black, but he had to paint his lips white and blacken his skin with burnt cork, like the many white people did who wore blackface.
Wow. And you can pick up a copy, a copy of this album by going to store.drdemento.com. At store.drdemento.com to order online. And this is amazing find. If you're into rarity music, older music, that sort of thing. In fact, you can order an autographed copy of the Doctor's latest album. First Century Dementia on CD, or they have Gray Marble double vinyl LP edition, limited to just 150 pieces worldwide while supplies last. He will
Those
autograph
are the ones
it for
that
you.
are autographed.
Yeah, they're the ones that are autographed. They're limited time. Store.drdemento.com. That's store.drdemento.com. You'll also find official Dr. Demento t-shirts, hats, button stickers, turntable slip mats, signed photos, and more from the Dr. Demento show and from that album. Dr. Demento's been going strong. How many years have you been going strong now, Dr. Demento?
50. We're
So
celebrating our 50th anniversary this year.
50th anniversary of Dr. Demento. I used to stay up late nights listening to Dr. Demento on KRSP FM in Salt Lake City, and I'd always end up not being able to stay awake in school because of Dr. Demento. But anyway, Channel Weird right now. Dr. Demento's our guest, and we'll be back with more. Don't go away.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com.
Following a disaster, your home emergency kit will be invaluable. Building a kit doesn't take long, and you'll be glad you did when disaster strikes. Here's a list of items to include: a first aid kit, battery-powered or hand crank radio, flashlight, extra batteries, an emergency whistle, cell phone with charger, cash and small bills, a local map with your family meeting place identified, food and water to last 2 weeks, garbage bags, dust masks, and seasonal clothing and footwear. Add prescription medications or any other important items unique to your family's needs. Once you've created your kit, check food expiry dates once a year and update seasonal clothing for growing children. If you have pets, make sure you have everything your furry friends need in an easy-to-carry grab-and-go bag. To learn more about preparing an emergency kit, visit mil.wa.gov/preparedness and get 2 weeks ready.
Be sure to get your low-cost 2-week supply of food with a miraculous 25-year shelf life by going to preparewithgroundzero.com.
It's a well-known fact that controversial talk show hosts have recently been censored and even banned on the internet by corporate and political interests. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. And in order to counter the suppression of information, we've decided to create our own private digital playground called Aftermath. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, research groups, documents, and a news aggregator. In addition, we're hosting other Ground Zero-friendly podcasts like Conspirafact with Wes and Bill, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Parawareness with Mr. Gates and Isaac Weishaupt, Opposing Perspective with James Ponder, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, and several more shows. Mobile apps for Android and Apple are available too. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month. The yearly special for new subscribers during the month of July is only $79 a month. You save almost $40. Sign up now by going to aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain, and the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
Dr. Demento's with us today on Weird. Woohoo! By the way, Dr. Demento offers a brand new 2-hour episode of the show every week via drdemento.com, and monthly subscribers have access to a vast streaming archive of episodes of the Dr. Demento shows aired from the 1970s to present. Is that when you got your start? Was in the 1970s, or where did you start your radio career?
In Pasadena, California. That's the first station I was on as Dr. Demento. Actually, I began my radio career at Reed College in Portland, but that was just the 10-watt FM station on campus. You could hear it about 3 miles from campus.
Who was it that discovered that you had all these records and all these recordings that they would make for a great radio show? I mean, I know that a lot of people know you for the novelty records you spin, but they don't realize just how much of a music historian you are and how much a national treasure you have with, like you say, records and vinyl and tapes and all kinds of CDs that go into the 6 figures.
Well, I built that up on my own for my own edification and my own pleasure, but it was a guy named Steven Seagal, not Steven Seagal, the actor, Steven Seagal, the DJ, who was a fairly prominent DJ on so-called underground FM radio in the early 70s. And they played all kinds of music, but mostly rock, and it was the only place you could hear Jimi Hendrix at first, was the underground FM station. So it started catching on big in the late 60s due to that. But so I started at KPPC, a station in Pasadena, California, in 1970. I started as a guest on Steven Seagal's show. Stephen was using the name the obscene Stephen Clean by that time, which gives you the idea of what kind of guy he is. And I moved with him eventually to KMET, which was a big, powerful FM station, which was the leading rock station in LA for most of the 70s. And I went along with it. So people would tune in to hear Led Zeppelin, and they get me.
So the curiosity would be that, okay, they tuned in for Led Zeppelin, they got you.
Yeah.
And when did you start? I mean, I know that, as Dr. Demento, as I said, you're well known for your novelty songs. When did that start picking up? Because there was this time in history, I know when I was growing up, and when several of, many of the people who listen to my program or watch my program know that they grew up in times where, gosh, I remember K-Tel used to put out a record every other month, like, promoting Goofy Greats, or, my mommy told me not to put beans in my ears, or they're coming to take me away, haha. These songs were a part of Americana, our culture, that had been forgotten. That there was a time where DJs would spin these wacky records. What time period was that?
I call the golden age of novelty records from 1956 to 1966. It started with songs like Transfusion by Nervous Norvus. Then came The Purple People Eater by Shep Woolley, which was #1 for weeks and sold multi-millions, and The Monster Mash by Bobby Boris Pickett. And the golden age of novelty records came to a climax with They're Coming to Take Me Away by Napoleon XIV, and who's still alive and well and living in Philadelphia, by the way. Jerry Samuels is his real name. But but that was something that nobody could quite top. You couldn't get any more demented, as I'd say today, with that. Then they're coming to take me away, and still have it be comprehensible and playable on the air. So nobody could top it for a while, and so novelty records kind of gradually faded away. Ray Stevens had The Streak, which was big in 1971.
Guitar Zan, remember that?
Yeah,
I remember Guitar Zan.
Yeah, Ray Stevens had a bunch of great novelty songs.
Right.
But the golden age had passed by the time he came along. He was kind of an exception. And then Weird Al Yankovic, of course, who I discovered myself and launched his career on the Dr. Demento show.
Did Weird Al ever have a number one? Because one of the things I remember, and this is something that I didn't realize until I got into radio myself, was that Rick Dees had a number one song with Disco Duck, and they followed up with Disco-rilla, I believe.
Right. Yeah.
And but did Weird Al have any number ones in his career?
Well, Eat It was number one on some charts. It was number one in Cashbox. Didn't quite make number one in Billboard, but more recently, just a few years ago, his most recent album, Mandatory Fun, was number one on the Billboard album charts for 2 weeks.
It's amazing that Weird Al has lasted as long as he has,
Yes,
doing what he does.
yeah, it's a tribute to his talent and his resourcefulness and his energy.
Do you think that maybe with COVID and all the other, I guess you could say dismal things we're bumping into, do you think there'll ever be a time where the idea of a novelty song, making it on, the major radio stations would happen again? Because I know how tightly controlled music is today with the program directors who basically, fill the gaps with a computer. And I was just curious if there was just this upswell of novelty songs, if they would ever make it back again into our radio stations.
I'd love to see that. I can't predict when or who is going to happen with it, or who might make it happen. Hopefully, there's another. I don't want to say another Weird Al, but somebody else with equal talent,
Right.
waiting in the wings. Weird Al is really a once-in-a-century time talent, I think, for
Right.
how versatile he has been and how skilled he has been and how he managed to evolve and continue over time. Like rap music didn't exist when Weird Al started.
Exactly. And I look back at the history of music and I think about how certain bands made it and how certain bands didn't make it. And there was a time, and we did a show together about this, where rock and roll literally was about death and destruction and like Tell Laura I Love Her and Patches and those songs. I have an affection for those songs for some reason because my parents used to listen to those.
Yeah.
And it's like I think that Rhino came out with a record called songs about death, songs about he didn't come back to the prom or whatever, and they actually offered you tissues. It was like a record album that had tissue paper in it so you could blow your nose if you're crying because they were such sad tearjerkers.
Yeah, those were big for about 2 years. 59, Teen Angel by Mark Dinning was the first really big one. And Tell Laura I Love Her was probably the best remembered. Leader of the Pack
Right.
by the Shangri-Las kind of fits into that too.
One of my friends, I remember when I was a kid, we used to call the radio stations up all the time. And if you heard a song on the radio, you called up and you'd win it. And this kid stood by his radio because he wanted to get the song, oh, where can my baby be? The Lord took her away from me. She's gone to heaven, so I got to be good so I can see my baby when I leave this world. And I'm just thinking, this is such a dismal, sad song. Why would you want to have that? And I know it was covered by Pearl Jam, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or Eddie Vedder, he covered it.
Yeah, well, lots of, the name of the band slips my mind, but in the 80s and 90s, we had what was called shoegazer rock at that time. Depeche Mode, that's one group that did that kind of music, and it was music that was danceable. That's
Right.
Much of its appeal was danceable, but the lyrics were often very dismal.
Right. Yeah, I remember too. One of the, like I said, I have an affection for those songs for some reason. I remember when Kiss did Detroit Rock City, That song is also about a tragic death where a kid going to a Kiss concert goes headlong into a truck. And I don't think a lot of people, when they listen to that song, understand that. And I thought, wow, one of my favorite bands plays a song or does a song about tragedy in rock and roll. And then, of course, it can get darker, of course, when you hear songs by Ozzy and other people. But music took that turn for a while. And like you said, for 2 years, some of the tearjerker songs come out like that. And I just had...
DOA by a group called Blood Rock. Remember that one?
Yeah. DOA is probably the most terrifying song ever done. I mean, I would say hands down next to probably I Love the Dead by Alice Cooper. It's one of the most scariest. If you ever listen to DOA by Blood Rock, you should look it up and listen to it. And after you're done, you will feel cold and scared and terrified. I don't know why. It just leaves a cold feeling when I hear it.
I remember we were flying along and hit something
in the air. I don't know what's worse, listening to that song or listening to Freebird and kind of being reminded about how Lynyrd Skynyrd lost half their band members in a plane crash. That's another thing that, if you listen to some songs, you can think about some of the weirdness. And Dr. Demento brings it in spades. And we love the fact that he's on the program. Remember, it's drdemento.com to listen to the 2-hour show, bringing back memories for some and maybe turning people on to some really good music. Coming up, we'll be talking more about Dr. Demento, First Century Dementia on CD with our guest, Dr. Demento, right here on Channel Weird. We'll be back.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com.
Following a disaster, your home emergency kit will be invaluable. Building a kit doesn't take long, and you'll be glad you did when disaster strikes. Here's a list of items to include: a first aid kit, battery-powered or hand crank radio, flashlight, extra batteries, an emergency whistle, cell phone with charger, cash and small bills, a local map with your family meeting place identified, food and water to last 2 weeks, garbage bags, dust masks, and seasonal clothing and footwear. Add prescription medications or any other important items unique to your family's needs. Once you've created your kit, check food expiry dates once a year and update seasonal clothing for growing children. If you have pets, make sure you have everything your furry friends need in an easy-to-carry grab-and-go bag. To learn more about preparing an emergency kit, visit mil.wa.gov/preparedness and get 2 weeks ready.
Be sure to get your low-cost 2-week supply of food with a miraculous 25-year shelf life by going to preparewithgroundzero.com.
It's a well-known fact that controversial talk show hosts have recently been censored and even banned on the internet by corporate and political interests. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. And in order to counter the suppression of information, we've decided to create our own private digital playground called Aftermath. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, research groups, documents, and a news aggregator. In addition, we're hosting other Ground Zero friendly podcasts like Conspirafact with Wes and Bill, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Terror Awareness with Mr. Gates and Isaac Weishaupt, Opposing Perspective with James Ponder, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, and several more shows. Mobile apps for Android and Apple are available too. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month. The yearly special for new subscribers during the month of July is only $79 a month. You save almost $40. Sign up now by going to aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain, and the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
First Century Dementia is a new CD from Dr. Demento. Actually, it's in vinyl as well. You can get it at store.drdemento.com. That's store.drdemento.com. It's 24 vintage recordings from the first century of novelty music, personally chosen by Dr. Demento, our guest today on Channel Weird. So, okay, I was thinking to myself that every year, classic rock stations do the countdowns. They do the top 100 to number one for New Year's. And every year we wait for the number one song, and it's either a Led Zeppelin song or a Pink Floyd song. So if you were to do I know you do the funny 5 all the time, but if you were to do a funny 100, what would always wind up being number one in your book as the number one novelty song of all time?
Well, it's Fish Heads by Barnes and Barnes. Neck and Neck at Times with Dead Puppies by Ogden Edsel. And number 3 would be They're Coming to Take Me Away, which is from 1966, was made before there was a Dr. Demento show. The 2 I just mentioned were probably inspired in part by the existence of the Dr. Demento show.
Well, that's great because it's one of those things I've always wondered about, because I would always, I had to stay up for the funny 5. And it was like, I wanted the funny 5 to hurry up and get done so I could get some sleep, but it never happened. But still, it was worth every moment to stay up and listen to the funny 5. Now, let's go back a bit to old songs again. Now, am I mistaken in thinking that the song Shaving Cream is one of the oldest tracks you play?
Yeah, that was probably written sometime in the late 30s, first recorded in 1946. And I often play the original recording.
And you did your own version as well.
And I did my own version as well, yes.
Right, because Shaving Cream was one of those songs that I learned at camp. We were singing it in camp, and then when I listened to the Dr. Demento show, I realized that this is a classic old song.
Yeah, it was originally a party record when it first came out. It was thought to be something that you could never play on the radio in the 40s. Of course, the radio was considerably more strict at that time in terms of content.
And I've used before Into Führer's Face on some of my montages, and that's Spike Jones.
Yes.
And, how far back does Spike Jones go? I mean, of course, that's the time of World War II, but that was another favorite of mine, listening to some old Spike Jones music when I was listening to the Dr. Demento show. Can you explain a little bit about Spike Jones?
Yeah, well, he's from Long Beach, California, and he grew up in the 30s and he was a drummer. He was an expert drummer. He could play jazz and swing, and and he plays on the Bing Crosby's original record of White Christmas, though you can barely hear him. He's
Right.
in the background. But anyway, he became famous or well known in Hollywood anyway, as a studio musician, and then decided to gather up some friends in the studio, some drinking buddies, and make some funny songs. And they thought that they'd compete with the Hoosier Hot Shots, which was, they were from Indiana, and they were considered to be rubes, yokels, hicks, and they enjoyed having that image. So Spike Jones became Spike Jones and his City Slickers, which was started out as a rural term for people from the city who tried to sell stuff to the poor farmers. So anyway, Spike used that name facetiously. Der Fuhrer's Face was his first big national hit, 1942, during the war. And
Yeah, that's
2 came in 1944.
And then, of course, the career just amazing. Some of those songs. I mean, see, those were the things too which brings us back to the album itself. Those were some of the highlights of the Dr. Demento show. Where during that show, I mean, sure, you had all of the wonderful, Dombly songs were, like you say, in that time period, They're Coming to Take Me Away and all that. And then all of a sudden Spike Jones comes on, or some other tune that, you're listening to it and you really listen carefully to it. And you're like going, wow. Here's a song from the album we want to play called Oh, How I Hate to Get Up in the Morning. Now, this song is by who? And give us a little background of that song.
Arthur Fields was his name. Arthur Fields became known during World War I for recording lots of topical songs, just like Washington crossed the Delaware, General Pershing will cross the Rhine, was one of his. But one that's kind of endured because it became popular again during World War II when Irving Berlin, who wrote the song himself, recorded it. But it's something that everybody can sympathize with, whether they're a soldier or have ever been in the military or not. My mother, who hated to get up in the morning, always used to sing that, oh, how I hate to get up in the morning. My mother would sing that around the house if she had to get up too early.
Well, let's play that. Let's play this song. It's "Oh, How I Hate to Get Up in the Morning" off the Dr. Demento First Century Dementia. Let's listen in.
The other day I chanced to meet a soldier friend of mine. He'd been in camp for several weeks and he was looking fine. His muscles had developed and his cheeks were rosy red. I asked him how he liked the life and this is what he said. Oh, how I hate to get up in the morning. Oh, how I'd love to remain in bed. For the hardest blow of all is to hear the bugler call. You've got to get up, you've got to get up, you've got to get up this morning. Someday I'm going to murder the bugler. Someday they're going to find him dead. I'll amputate his reveille and step upon it heavily and spend the rest of my life in bed. A bugler in the army is the luckiest of men. He wakes the boys at 5 and then goes back to bed again. He doesn't have to blow again until the afternoon. If everything goes well with me, I'll be a bugler soon. Oh, how I hate to get up in the morning. Oh, how I'd love to remain in bed. For the hardest blow of all is to hear the bugler call. You've got to get up, you've got to get up, you've got to get up this morning. Someday I'm going to murder the bugler. Someday they're going to find him dead. I'll amputate his reveille and step upon it heavily and spend the rest of my life in bed. Oh, how I hate to get up in the morning. Oh, how I'd love to remain in bed. full of the hardest blow of all is to hear the bugler call. You've got to get up, you've got to get up, you've got to get up this morning. Oh boy, the minute the battle is over. Oh boy, the minute the foe is dead. I'll put my uniform away and move to Philadelphia and spend the rest of my life in bed.
That's amazing. That's great. How I hate to get up in the morning. Okay, so this may be a silly question, but okay, when I was a kid, you'd hear that da 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 da. You'd hear that in cartoons all the time, especially ones dealing with like Bugs Bunny in the military or Donald Duck in the military or whatever. So is that the real lyric? You got to get up. You got to get up. You got to get up this morning. Or was this where it originated? What's that?
That's the words Irving Berlin. The tune is from Reveille, the bugle call.
Right.
Irving Berlin set those words to it.
Okay, because I remember too. You're in the army now. You're never behind the plow. You're digging a ditch. You son of a bitch. You're in the army now. And I remember I didn't know the words to that song because I remember a cartoon where they actually beeped out that one part, because they didn't want anybody to, it was the Hayes office wouldn't let them put that on a cartoon.
Well, not son of a bitch.
No, not at all. But they wouldn't have it in a cartoon. But those are some things that when I was raised as a kid, we took for granted were in the cartoons, but we never knew. I think we never knew the origination of them all. And I think if you wanted to find the actual compilation or the actual music, give it a name, you wouldn't be able to unless you had this album. I mean, you wouldn't be able to know where you could find some of these tracks that we've grown up with, but we've never really been able to put a name on them.
Yeah, well, you used to be able to buy records of bugle calls of the military.
Yeah, I remember when we first met, we were talking about military songs. We were talking about Sergeant Barry Sadler and the Green Beret song, because I was curious. I heard a rumor that the government bought up all the songs so that we could have it number one on the charts, but apparently it sold really well during the Vietnam War.
Yeah, a lot of people liked it.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of it at the time, but a lot of people liked it. It was a good song.
Yeah, I was very surprised. But apparently, war songs, they've always see some of the things that really are bizarre. And when I talk with you, I know of your knowledge and everything, but you see in music, there's always a trend to reflect the zeitgeist. I want to go back and approach this with you because I think it's interesting now that we're listening back to these old songs to try and figure out why music today is really different. I mean, there's no novelty. There doesn't seem to be any rebellious songs anymore. It's all complacency, I think. I don't know. We'll talk to Dr. Demento about it. First Century Demento, Dr. Demento's new album, and you stay tuned. We'll get you the deets on how you can get this new album. It's amazing. Right here on Channel Weird. We'll be back.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis. Have you ever wanted Ground Zero merchandise but didn't know where to go? Well, I want to let you know that we now have our own online store with such items as t-shirts, hoodies, decals, tote bags, and other exclusive specialty apparel. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. Coming soon will be signed posters and coffee mugs available as we are constantly adding new items. So shop today at the official Ground Zero store by going to groundzeromerch.com. That's groundzeromerch.com.
Following a disaster, your home emergency kit will be invaluable. Building a kit doesn't take long, and you'll be glad you did when disaster strikes. Here's a list of items to include: a first aid kit, battery-powered or hand crank radio, flashlight, extra batteries, an emergency whistle, cell phone with charger, cash and small bills, a local map with your family meeting place identified, food and water to last 2 weeks, garbage bags, dust masks, and seasonal clothing and footwear. Add prescription medications or any other important items unique to your family's needs. Once you've created your kit, check food expiry dates once a year and update seasonal clothing for growing children. If you have pets, make sure you have everything your furry friends need in an easy-to-carry grab-and-go bag. To learn more about preparing an emergency kit, visit mil.wa.gov/preparedness and get 2 weeks ready.
Be sure to get your low-cost 2-week supply of food with a miraculous 25-year shelf life by going to preparewithgroundzero.com.
It's a well-known fact that controversial talk show hosts have recently been censored and even banned on the internet by corporate and political interests. Hey guys, it's Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero. And in order to counter the suppression of information, we've decided to create our own private digital playground called Aftermath. It's an exclusive online multimedia library featuring a social media platform, videos, audio clips, archive shows, research groups, documents, and a news aggregator. In addition, we're hosting other Ground Zero-friendly podcasts like Conspirafact with Wes and Bill, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, Para-Awareness with Mr. Gates and Isaac Weishaupt, Opposing Perspective with James Ponder, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, and several more shows. Mobile apps for Android and Apple are available too. The monthly subscription for Aftermath is only $10 a month. The yearly special for new subscribers during the month of July is only $79 a month. You save almost $40. Sign up now by going to aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media. It's all over the news, food shortages and scarcity in the supply chain, and the reality is nobody truly knows what might happen in the near future. Hi, I'm Clyde Lewis, and I want to let you know that it's a good idea to plan ahead so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We highly recommend My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. They provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, their foods will be there when you need them most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of other survival products. If the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. After you order from My Patriot Supply, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep. Prepare today, because time is short. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
Dr. Demento is with us on Channel Weird. Dr. Demento, First Century Dementia on CD in a stunning gray marbled double vinyl LP edition. Limited to just 150 pieces worldwide while supplies last. You can get exclusively at store.drdemento.com. The autographed album is limited to 150 pieces, so you got to get that today by going to store.drdemento.com. You'll also find official Dr. Demento t-shirts, hats, buttons, stickers, turntables, slip mats, signed photos, and more demented goodies available. I was going to say, as I was going into the break, something that every time I have a conversation with you, every time we do a show together or something, I always walk away saying to myself that I am so lucky to have a variety of music in my life, thanks to you and other people who have brought it into my life. And I'm having right now a musical relationship with my stepson as he's introducing me to hip hop and to rap. But one of the things I said to myself one time is he going to be listening to this for the rest of his life? Because it seems to me that everything is a variation on rap or hip-hop, and there never seems to be this variation anymore where it's just strict one particular genre or another. I remember for the longest time growing up, it was always with me. It was either I listened to my parents' country music or their old oldies music, or I'd listen to new rock and roll, and anything from Led Zeppelin to Kiss records. So there I was listening to all that when I was a kid, and of course now I'm getting my education in hip hop and my education in rap music. But where do you think the trends are going to go? Because I mean, there has been word that rock is dead, that it really isn't any really big new rock bands coming upon the scene. What is your outlook on the future of music?
Well, hip hop is now 40 years old, and it has evolved over the years. And if I knew where it's going to go next, I mean, I'd be the wealthiest man in the world. But so I can't really say. But hip hop from the 1980s sounds old school, they call it, but almost antique compared to the latest. Because it keeps changing all the time, so it's still a dynamic form, just as rock and roll was for many years, and country has evolved too, and R&B, all music that is alive, especially as favored by young people, it is continued to evolve, and nobody, it's going to be a surprise what the next big thing is. It could be happening right now somewhere, maybe in Portland, Oregon. But
yeah. Well, speaking of Portland, Oregon, and speaking of why you make Portland weird is because that's where you got your start, was at Reed.
Yes.
And, it's been a while. And like I said, when I first talked to you before we went on the air, that I miss you and that, Portland misses you. That when you go to Reed College, it's such a remarkable event, such a fun event. What I think is interesting is you up there doing a whole seminar and a whole lecture on punk rock. I remember going to that one. It was an amazing thing because we were one of the diehard punks. To the bitter end when I lived in Salt Lake City, Utah. We were, that's why they did the SLC punk movie, is because punk rock really didn't die off that much where I came from. But having it come back in such a way with you talking about it, and of course you did some golden oldies and all kinds of great stuff. I mean, really golden oldies. So when and how are we going to be able to capture those lectures again? Are you doing virtually, or are you going to come back to Reed eventually?
I hope to come back to Reed eventually. They have reunions, which are only for college graduates, but we have Paideia every January, and hopefully we'll have it live and in color and in person next January. So, and I hope to be there. Time will tell, but I sure hope I can be there and contribute some more.
How long did how far back do we go with the Reed College lectures that you've done? I mean, how many years have you been doing these?
I did my first one actually in 78. Yeah, that's the first one I ever did. I did them regularly. I've done them regularly since 1994. Except for the pandemic year and one other year, I didn't miss a year from 1994 until just recently.
And of course, you still do a brand new episode of your show every week at DrDemento.com.
Yes.
How is that going for you?
Oh, it's going great. Yeah.
And how do people listen? Is it like a live feed, or is it a subscription feed? I mean, what do people have to do to listen to the shows?
Subscribe to it. It's not live, but I produce it usually on Thursday, and the show goes online Saturday, so it's pretty up to date.
So do we get to see or hear some of the classic Dr. Demento?
Yes.
I remember I inherited a number of the old vinyl that used to send to some of the radio stations because one of the morning team that I worked with in Salt Lake at KLZX Z93, they brought over some of the Dr. Demento stuff because they even submitted songs. A guy by the name of Robert Lund, who I used to work with, would submit songs to you. Yeah. He's an amazing writer. He had 99 Words for Boobs. That was a great song that he did. And I think he's responsible for that song, Ding, Fries Are Done, Ding, Fries Are Done. And I worked with him, actually. And he would submit a lot of great songs to the Dr. Demento show. And so they kept some of the albums that you had them on, and I inherited some of them when when the morning show moved itself to a country station. So I think I then gave them to another great music aficionado, Kerry Jackson, who does a morning show now in Salt Lake as well.
Okay.
So it just seems to be the legacy here. I mean, I just want to be able to say, just like I think you do, that you're handing to generations some of this great music, that these gems that are going to be forgotten. And I think that's why it's so important that people get your album, Dr. Demento, First Century Dementia, because it is the legacy being handed down and the inspiration that I think codifies the culture. And I think that we need to be more aware of some. I'm a big history buff, so I think even music history is worthy of exploring.
Yeah, well, don't forget Dr. Demento Covered in Punk, my second most recent album, is still very much available on Demented Punk Records, available from drdemento.com.store, like the other one. And that's punk, became a whole genre to itself, which changed and evolved and broadened. And there's punk country and punk R&B and punk disco these days. It just became very fresh.
Covered in Punk is an amazing album. I've listened to that album over and over and over again. For those of you that don't know, Covered in Punk is the Dr. Demento song, some of the most famous Dr. Demento songs revisioned in punk. And it's amazing to listen to.
Yeah, you'll see the cover up above my head on top of the bookshelf there. There's the cover of Dr. Demento Covered in Punk. But the top 10, I do a top 10 last Saturday of every month, and the number one song this time, because it created the biggest buzz, though it's not really a funny song, not at all. It's called "Racist Sexist Boy" by the Linda Lindas. Have you seen them online?
I have seen them online. Yes.
Yeah. They're all in their junior high and high school years, and they're Asian American women, some of them anyway, and they do this song called "Racist Sexist Boy," and it's not really classic Dementia, but on the other hand, it's something. I played the Sex Pistols when I first heard them.
You played Laurie Anderson once, Superman. Oh, Superman!
Yeah, and that's on, and that for the first time in some years is on the show again. The current, the last week's show now.
That song. I remember when I first heard it, creeped me out. That was like DOA. Another song that creeped me out was "Oh, Superman" by Laurie Anderson. Yeah,
well, that's on the show for May 29th, which is still available at drdemento.com.
Yeah. It's amazing, the memories. It's amazing the songs I remember listening to when I was up late at night listening to your show. And I think the fond memories are what to be had with Dr. Demento, First Century Dementia. Remember, store.drdemento.com. That's store.drdemento.com. His latest, you can get a autographed LP edition. There's only 150 pieces available, so go to store.drdemento.com. Dr. Demento, thank you for being on Channel Weird With Us. It was a pleasure.
Good thing, Clyde. Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah, you too. Don't forget to stay demented.
Thanks, Dr. Demento.